What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to talk about a change that kind of happened and I feel like no one really noticed or talked about it. If you guys do enjoy this video, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below what you think of this and if it changes the items you're going to use. So what we're going to be talking about today is going to be the Combat SMG for controller players. If you guys were unaware, at the start of the season, I recommended not using the Combat SMG at all if you play on controller because it just felt very weird and very different from how it felt in Chapter 3. It felt like it had no aim assist at all for controller players, or at least controller players on PC. And I'm not sure if this is just because the aim assist of the weapon was bugged, it definitely seemed that way, or if just like the recoil on the weapon was bugged and it had way more recoil than it did last time it was in the game for controller. And because the recoil of the weapons are different on controller versus keyboard, they have individual values. So I'm not sure if the controller recoil was increased from what it was in Chapter 3, or if just the aim assist on it was bugged, like I said, but it definitely felt like the hipfire aim assist on the Combat SMG was pretty much non-existent for controller players at the start of the season. And so because of that, I recommend just not using it if you played on controller. But since then, in a recent update, probably last week's update, that seems to have been fixed, and now the Combat SMG is very usable on controller. Whether or not it's the best thing in the game, I'm not really sure, but at this point in time, if you play controller, I wouldn't shy away from using the Combat SMG if you are someone who's been avoiding it because you thought the aim assist was non-existent. It seems to be fixed now. And so how does this affect the game? I still think pump repeater is probably the best combo in the game right now as far as close range goes. If the explosive repeater ends up getting nerfed, I could definitely see a world in which, you know, Havoc pump or Sharptooth pump and Combat SMG is the way to go. But even if you don't like using the explosive repeater rifle, I would definitely recommend trying out the Combat SMG again. I really like pump repeater. I think it's really powerful. I wouldn't mind if it would get nerfed. I think it is very broken. But even if you don't enjoy using it, the Combat SMG can be, you know, usable. I've won several games using it since this change, and I do use it in builds now. I play both builds and zero builds, and the way the fights play out and the way the game plays out definitely changes. So I have been using Havoc Pump, Combat SMG, and like explosive repeater in builds, and then just no AR. In zero builds, I've been using MK, Havoc Pump, and explosive repeater. If the explosive repeater was removed from the game tomorrow, or just, you know, suddenly didn't exist, I would be using Pump Combat SMG. So if you are someone who doesn't like using the repeater, I think the Combat SMG is probably going to be the way to go for you. I wanted to make this video to let you guys know that, since I've recommended not using it in the past. At this point in time, I feel like the better spray weapon is the Combat SMG. I think the Flapjack AR is a close second as far as spray weapon goes. It has a very strong aim assist, it's got good damage, and it's just got a ridiculous mag size combined with its like somewhat lower fire rate. It means you have sustained fire for a long time, whereas the Combat SMG, it has a very fast fire rate. It still has a decent amount of recoil. It's just more controllable now and more usable now than it was at the start of the season. And the DPS on it is insane. You can just melt people incredibly fast with the Combat SMG. At this point, though, I would avoid using the regular SMG. There might be some niche cases where like maybe you have a gold regular SMG versus a white combat. But since the weapons feel so different, if I'm using a spray weapon, I'm just going to be using the Combat SMG all the time. That way I'm used to using it and I'm used to controlling the recoil and, like, you know, playing off of that well. If you're perfect, you know, if you hit all your shots, the Combat SMG is insane. Like the TTK on it, the DPS it puts out is ridiculous. It was just very inconvenient to use at the start of the season. It's still pretty inconvenient to use because it has a solid amount of recoil, but once you get used to that and you get used to playing off that, I think this is the best spray weapon in the game now, like how it was for pretty much all of Chapter 3 while it was in the game. So I just wanted to let you guys know that the Combat SMG, if you've been avoiding it and you're on controller, try it out again. Don't avoid it. It's definitely solid. The explosive repeater is probably better now, but I think the Combat SMG is certainly usable. If you guys found this video helpful or informative, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more. Comment down below what you think of this, and I'm going to let some gameplay play out showing a game I recently won using the Combat SMG and zero builds. Thanks for watching. Yo, that guy's the GOAT. I appreciate him so much. I'm about to add that guy and gift him a skin. Homie brought me a crown and shockwaves. What's up, Tommy? And I know there was one in the vault. I'll just go on this guy then. What is this guy doing then?
Insane.
Thank you for the sub, Red Dragon. I appreciate it. Enjoy your RP viewing emotes. And sub badge. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Oh, maybe it's not as bad. Dude, my zones have been so dirt today in Zero Build. Like, this mountain, I think, is like one of the worst zones in the game. I think it went on like the back side of that, though. Annoyed. Okay, sweet. I was like... Are there pads at this? I would assume there is. This guy might be about to fight that other guy, though. Annoyed. So isn't it like I told you, the zone is a mess? Yeah. Like I kind of wanted to go down to that brutal building down here because I figured there'd be a pad there that we could use to like get back up if I needed to. But once I saw that other guy creeping up the mountain, I figured like might as well just third party that if they fight. Because now I'm already up here. And if zone ended up going down there, it's like much easier to get from up here to down there if I need to. Than like retake this mountain when that guy's fresh. Still know where the other player is. Seemed like that guy on the top of the mountain didn't take much damage though when he was in that fight with that other player, but at least it like bought us time to just like get a decent pump shot on him to start the fight. I maybe should have went on this guy. Yeah, I was gonna say if he has a repeater, this stinks for me. 6 seconds on zone, and I don't have enough shockwaves to push him. Zone pulls back my way. He can just like kill me with the repeater here. But if he doesn't, we can win this, I think. And the fact that he isn't already just spamming me out. Like, if you're this guy, you just want to be throwing repeater shots at me and you remove my cover. And potentially flush me out with the splash damage. He might be, like, flanking or something. I haven't seen him in a while. So yeah, like what are you doing if you're this player? Like his best time to win this game would have been forcing a fight in the zone we're currently in. Whether it's flushing me out with repeater damage or what, but just existing on there and doing nothing with that high ground doesn't really win him the game. When zone doesn't pull his way. If zone pulled his way, then he could do what he's doing, but he was on a timer to win this game. Dude, he's melting with the Combat SMG. I'm not sure why he chose to play that way. This was an odd play to make. It ended up working out for him, but he just drove to the top of this hill and just did that. Personally, I wouldn't have done that because we're about to see the next zone in 9 seconds. But he has the advantage right now. Right? And he has the explosive repeater. Maybe he just has a really bad angle on it. Yeah, all he has to do is shoot his repeater right here. or right here and potentially flush me out with splash damage. I'm not sure if this rock can be broke, but if it can, then that's also a possibility. He's flushing me out with splash damage and potentially destroying my cover. And he does open the door, which is like a decent play to be able to get shots on me. Okay, so now we see zone. Zone is much better for me than it is for him. He has shockwaves. I didn't know that at the time. So he can easily get to this zone. But even then, this player, I would say, has a 90-10 advantage in this fight. Like, it is very heavily skewed in his favor. There is not much I can do here if he chooses to try to, like, get me with splash damage. And he has this advantage for the next 40 seconds plus whatever zone pull is. My perspective, all I have to do is exist here. If I force this fight in this zone, it's heavily in his favor. So I kind of want to just exist until zone moves. Everything is on him right now. He should want to be like accelerating the pace of the game because this zone is much better for him. And the next zone is better for me as far as where it pulled to. He does have shockwaves, so he can get there fast as well. But it ends up just being a 50-50. And this fight is heavily in his favor. So I don't know why he decides to do nothing during this fight and then let the game get to a 50-50. But this is what he does. Like, one of the reasons why the explosive repeater is so busted is because you could just flush people out of cover like this. And it's like the skill required to do that, or the difficulty to do that, is just not very large. Maybe he's very weak or something. Okay, no, not even. He throws another bunker just to use it, I guess. And then he picks up these shockwaves. But again, if he just shoots the repeater at the ground next to me, that's 40 damage a shot, roughly. And he potentially destroys my cover. Like, very quickly, the game gets to a point that's... It's already much more difficult for me to play than him. This bunker stinks in comparison to the other one. But, like, knowing what zone to end the game on it's just, like, situational. Like I said, it's hard to just, like, define rules for that. But the reason why I was saying this player should want to win the game in this zone is because the way the current situation is in the next zone, it's heavily in his favor. If zone went, like, back towards brutal, like, you see how zone went, like, back this way? Imagine it went back on his side. Then he can do what he does. He just has to exist and everything is on me. But, like, zone pulled back my way. The time at which he has control of the game is running out, and he's just doing nothing with it for some reason. Again, probably not the most, like, comfortable player. He's probably nervous in game. That's why I always tell you guys to fight and just, you know, not care about it. But this is a very easy game for him to win. I feel like he very much overthought this fight. He even, like, popped the slurp beforehand. That way he would have, like, HP regenning for this fight that's coming up. Like, he does all of this just to create this fight. Why is this a more preferred fight for this player than when he was just going to splash damage me with the repeater? I'm not sure. But, like, the game would have never got to that point if he just looked at the ground and shot next to me. Because then I'm forced to either choose with taking that damage or running out in the open and taking more damage.